Bee Builder here. I've got a really fun video for you today. I've looked around and I've seen a lot of these honey sticks that people make, and I see them in the stores, and I always thought it would be fun to have them. And I've actually come up with a way to do them at home without using anything extra. These sticks are actually way easier to make than I actually thought they would be. To start out, you're going to want to have a hair iron or a flat iron for your hair. I just was looking up some stuff for some bag sealers, and I noticed that some of the bag sealers actually look a lot like a flat iron, so I thought, hey, why don't I give it a try? And sure enough, it worked great. So I'm going to go over that. Now I've got these colored straws, and these are the kinds I use. And the reason why is because I like to do different flavors in my honey. And you don't have to do this; you can just do it plain. But it's fun to do it. The yellow ones I put lemon oil in to make it kind of a lemony. The green ones I put peppermint oil to give it kind of a mint. The blue ones I just do plain if I don't want any kind of flavoring in it. And the red ones I actually, the red ones are the ones that I put my cinnamon honey in, and the cinnamon honey is the kind that I actually use for seasonal allergies. And if you're interested in that, you can check out a previous movie, and I'll put a link in it at the end of the movie. But that is why I actually choose to use the colored sticks, because then it keeps this flavor straight, and then I can kind of pick whichever one I'm in the mood for. So first of all, you need straws, you need some scissors, a flat iron, and a little pair of needle nose pliers, if you have them on hand. So to start out, and of course you need your honey. Here's my honey, and it's already been warmed up. And you'd like to warm it up while still keeping it raw. I have another video on that if you want to check that out as well. So with that, I've got my honey all warmed up, and it's in this squeeze bottle. Now this is the bottle I actually stored in anyways, but if you don't store it in a bottle like this, you're going to want to get a little squeeze bottle like this to put it into the straw. You're going to be tempted to actually seal off one end before you fill it up with honey, and you can't do that because of the pressure that's inside the straw. The honey won't go in very well. So when you put it in one end and you fill it up, it's not warm enough to where it's just going to run out the other end, and so it's really not an issue. You'd think it'd run out a lot easier, but it doesn't. Okay, so I have my straw, and really you just use your squeeze bottle, put it in the end, and you can actually see it filling up. So it's really easy to figure out when you have enough in there. Now you want to stop when there's about an inch left on the end of the straw. That gives you some gaps on both sides of the straw, but if you fill it up with too much honey, it gets to be a mess. So with that, once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and pinch it with my pliers here. And that just helps flatten it out so that the flat iron can seal it together. Once you have that done, you get your flat iron, and now mine is on a heat level 5. You're going to want to play around with your heat settings a little bit to make sure you don't get it too hot, else it will just melt right through the straw, or not hot enough, and it'll take a long time to seal. After doing this, I really reconsidered using these on my hair because they actually do melt the plastic quite easily. But with that, you just crimp down on it, and it just takes just a second. And as you can see, it's kind of rolled over. And then quickly, I'm going to reclamp it with the end of my pliers. And if you look right there, whoops, if you look right there, it's given a really good seal on the end of the straw. So once I'm done with that, I'm going to turn it over on this side and kind of tap it down a little bit. It doesn't really take a lot. Mostly, it'll really just slide down. Now with that, I'm going to put my pliers at the end and kind of slide them down to push down any excess honey that's in the end of that. And then I will get my hot iron out again and repeat the process. Clamp down on it. And there you can see it just melting, and I'll clamp it with my pliers just to make sure it has an extra seal. Now once you're done with that, I suggest you give it a good squeeze. Make sure that nothing's leaking out of the ends, and there you have your straw. See the process with a little bit different angle so you can get a better look at it. Here's my straw. Again, I'm going to cut that hinge off of it, get my honey bottle, stick it right in the end, and just go ahead and fill it up. Till I've got about an inch at the end of the straw. And then I will get my pliers to clamp it. Now once it's clamped, I'm going to go ahead and use this wand. And this is just another hair tool, and all you have to do here is go ahead and press it against the iron itself. And it's just going to melt it. Now, depending on how hot it is, it'll melt it quickly or not, but then once it's melted, you give it a good clamp, and if you can see that, it just gives it a really good seal on the end, and the straw's been sealed now on that end. And then once that's done, you do the same thing on this side. As you can see on this one, I filled it up too much. You see how the honey goes clear to the end? You can just kind of clean it off like that, and use your pliers to kind of push down the excess honey on your straw, and then repeat the process. Melt the end, use your pliers, clamp it closed. That one didn't quite seal. If it has honey in the end, it usually will take a little bit longer to melt the straw to really get that honey that honey cools it off really quick, but then you just reclamp it, and there you have a straw. Give it a good squeeze, make sure that it's all sealed off, and you're done with your straw. One other quick method you can do is just using a lighter if you don't have any kind of hair equipment. So here again, I've left about an inch at the end of my straw. I'm going to get my pliers, put them at the end of the straw like this, and then just use my lighter. You can also use a candle to just melt the ends. Once it's melted like that, you give it a good clamp, and there it seals it, actually seals it really well. And so we're going to do the same on this end. Again, I'm going to squeeze the top, push the honey down. Whoops. Again, I didn't tap it down, so that's why it came out the end. And get my lighter, melt down the end. I'm going to give it a little bit extra time on this one because the honey's coming out the end. And then I clamp it. And there you have it. It's a really good seal on both ends. Quick and easy, and you don't need anything extra to do it with. Out of all of the methods I use, really the flat iron is my favorite. I feel like it's more consistent. The flame tends to burn through the straw more often than not, and it's just difficult working with the fire. And the wand is nice, but it really just doesn't clamp it down like it needs to be. And so this way, really, it seems to be the most consistent at sealing it properly and the quickest. So this is the one I actually prefer. Now, if you find when you're done that your hot iron has honey and plastic on it, you can really just clamp it on a rag while it's still warm, and it will wipe off any of the excess mess. So it won't ruin your iron. You can still use it to melt your hair in the future. If you're interested in adding flavor to your honey like I do, really you don't need a whole lot to add flavoring to it. Too much will overpower it, and it's not particularly pleasant. So if I have a couple cups of honey, I'll only use 2 or 3 drops. Really, very, very little is needed. And you can use peppermint oil or lemon oil, or I really like the cinnamon in my honey as well. So this is the Backyard Bee Builder. If you have any other questions, feel free to comment below, and I will see you next time.